Thank you for that introduction, Sir Dinkly. And it's quite the tale you asked me to tell. Quite a tale. And I shall now entertain you, dear guests and fellow club members of the Munchausen Club. Shall we begin? I must warn you now, it's not a tale for the faint of heart. So if you have any illnesses, please do not hesitate to close your ears. As it were, it was a rainy April morning. I was sitting in the study of my castle, Gorgalia Castle. A smaller castle than my father's, of course, he's the king, but mine is more ostentatious and has more wenches in it. Anyway, I was sitting reading a classical book. I think it was one of the Twilight ones. At the same time, my good butler Higgins was giving one of the servant girls a damn right thrashing of the buttocks, because I believe she had been a very naughty girl, naughty indeed. Higgins do so love to hand out those thrashings. He's a bit utterly and completely insane, certifiable. A bit. Anyway, suddenly I heard a bang, and I started... What's that smell? It smells of rotten eggs and sulfur. Same smell, actually. I turned around, and in the darkness, what did I see? A being. Some kind of creature made out of dark, opaque glass. An immense creature with horns, large and long, curved like a ram, and eyes deep blue piercing. They saw right through my dirty, evil soul, and found me quite all right. It strode towards me and said, "Crown Prince Froderick of Gorgalia, I am the Demon Lord Nathaniel. I was taken back, aghast. "I think I'll just call you Fred," I said. At that it nodded, it acquiesced. "Crown Prince Froderick, I have a challenge for you. A challenge which demands that you will go out into Europe, and from each and every one of the countries you shall give me one maiden, blonde of hair, for my harem." I call it harem. He called it harem. Same thing, different pronunciation. "Oh, really? A blonde-haired maiden from every European country? Even the Vatican State?" "Yes, especially the Vatican State," said the Demon Lord. I thought to myself, have to be a tourist then. Well, I said to him, "Yes, it's a challenge, but what do I get out from it?" He said, "I will give you in gold 1 billion denarii. He was using the Roman currency, which I found odd, but he was a Demon Lord. I said, "Oh, mighty Demon Lord, 1 billion denarii would suffice. Then I can gild my castle." You see, I like to gild things. Anyway, I said to Higgins, "Higgins, put some clothes on, man. We're going out on a trip. And I have just the means of transportation. You see, I had recently won a bet with a media mogul and won large parts of the old Orient Express. Sleeper cars, a diner car, an engine, and of course I've had it all gilded, because that's the kind of rich bastard I am. I called it the Auric Express, because what do you call a golden train?" Oh. Then we set out, going from country to country, state to state, looking for the blonde-haired maidens. It was quite easy. We simply went about as following. In the deep of night we rolled into the station of the nation or state's capital, except of course the state of the Vatican. You can't go by train to the state of Vatican. You have to go by foot. Anyway, I digress. We stole the blonde-haired maidens in the dead of night. We stole them from the family, from the loved ones, but not from spouses, of course, for they must be maidens. They can't be damaged goods. Then the demon lord would not surely give me 1 billion denarii. And of course we made sure they stayed maidens. They had every luxury, of course, aboard the Orient Express, except freedom. And eunuch chefs served them, of course, eunuch chefs. And I don't mean the balls cut off, I mean the whole thing. I don't want those eunuchs, those half-tucked eunuchs, to get randy with my maidens, or soon to be the demon lord Fred's maidens. Anyway, it went quite easy. We procured the maiden from each and every state until we of course came to the state of the Vatican. Higgins and I were of course forced to go by foot into the state. We arrived at St. Peter's Place, looked up towards the churches, and I said, what now, Higgins? And he says, the Swiss guard lives here. Yes, but they're supposed to be celibate, Higgins. Yes, celibate, said Higgins. I have frankly no idea what he was thinking about. But we snuck into the papal palace, ransacked it. No, not ransacked it per se, we snuck around, putting on clothes, going, look, I am the Pope, I am holy. Things like that. Higgins, of course, went naked as he always does. That man does not like clothes, or saying things for that matter. Anyway, we came upon a room, a locked room. Luckily, I had my rusty thieves set with me. So I picked the lock with my lockpick and opened the door. And what did I see? The Pope had a harem as well. Only not so many maidens. So we went about to see if any of them were still a maiden. And we lucked out. We found 2. One blonde of hair, one red of hair. The one red of hair is no longer a maiden. Anyway, we snuck out, but the Swiss guard came upon us. We are Swiss! They did not say. They of course come from the Italian cantons of Switzerland and spoke more like, what are you doing? Worst Italian accent ever, of course, but yeah, you get the gist. They lower their pikes or lances or whatever they call those things, glaives maybe, and charged at us. Charge! I drew my trusty saber. Yes, I have a lightsaber. If you're rich, you get many things. It said, and I went about shopping at them, chopping them down one by one, until suddenly I heard something at the top of the stairs. I saw him bedecked in full papal armor. Benedictus XVI himself. So you think you can break into my... There I am, going at it again. He's German. So I think, yeah, you can break into my home and steal my virgins. You have gone too far this time, Froderick, he said. We met before. It was not pretty. And he drew his lightsaber. Vroom. Red, of course. Mine was also red. Figures. And he jumped at me with a scream. Ah! And an epic lightsaber duel began. Yeah. It was not so epic. You see, when he rushed down the stairs, he fell on his robes, tumbled, and I swiftly cut off his balls and head and arms with my lightsaber. Case closed. And so we sprang from there swiftly into the train away, and lo and behold, my collection of maidens was complete. Every European country was now represented by a blonde-haired maiden. So I returned to Gorgalia with those maidens. When I came back to the castle with maidens in tow, the demon lord Fred was already there. I could smell something. As I entered the study where I had last found him, I saw a roasted aardvark, complete, with apple in mouth, pine nuts, and onions strewn over it. The demon lord looked at me. I could see he was very glad to see me. Honestly, I couldn't see that at all. He was made of glass. Happy, sad? I don't know. And he turned to me. Froderick, I am very pleased with you, except one of the maidens is half a maiden. He had seen through my ruse. I had been a bit handsy, third basey, if one can say that, third base, you know, with one of the maidens. Of course he saw that. I should not have done it, but Higgins, he egged me on. Do it, he said. But please, demon lord, I begged. Do not kill me. She's half a maiden. Yes. And for that you should get half a punishment, the demon lord said. And with a swift chop, he split the aardvark in two halves and proceeded to jam the front half of the aardvark down my throat. 30 pounds of it. I don't know if you've had half an aardvark stuffed down your throat, but to be honest, not so enjoyable. He asked, "How does it taste, Froderick?" And being a gentleman, I said, "Hoo-hoo-hoo," which meant, "Quite nice, demon lord." I lied, of course. It was thoroughly unseasoned. And the pine nuts, I'm allergic to pine nuts, so we shan't go into it. There are 3 things that happens when you have an aardvark stuffed down your throat. 1. Dry of mouth. You get the very dry of mouth. 2. You get short of breath, since you have an aardvark stuffed down your throat. And 3, of course, rampant diarrhea. Rampant diarrhea, you say? I say, yes. Rampant. I survived the ordeal, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you now. Luckily I survived. He said, I have given you half a punishment, Froderick. Enjoy excreting that aardvark. I already have, Demon Lord, I said, lying in the corner shuddering. At that, he scoffed. He took the maidens and he withdrew. And as I lied there, thinking things couldn't get any worse, all of a sudden there was a crash, and through the window came a fighting nun, bedecked in Thai boxing clothes. She had gloves on, she had those shorts, and the knotted rope string you have around your elbows. And she said, I am Sister Mary Magdalene of the Vatican State. You have killed the Pope, now prepare to die my Thai style. Oh yeah? I said. Well, let me get my Thai gloves on. Because, of course, I am a master of Mai Tai. And not the drink. We squared off. Of course, I had wiped beforehand. She had been gracious enough to let me do that. We squared off. She had her arms up and her elbows, and she punched and she kicked. She went about thrashing wildly. She was a master, I could tell. I was on the defense to begin with. And then I threw her at the study glass. She fell out. And I jumped off her, yeah, with my fist out like this. She parried. And we started a wild brawl in the palace garden. Rolling, kicking, screaming. A wild fight. Higgins was pleasuring himself in a corner. I told you he was insane. We fought for hours, until I came up with a great plan. I beat her! With one little thing. I told her that the Pope his last words to me were, "Condoms for everyone!" That made a pause, and then I plucked out her lungs with my boxing glove and said, "Look, lungy!" Her eyes went glassy, she went limp, and I went about seeing about that reward. 1 billion denarii, which I gilded in my castle, and every servant girl with. Well, that was my tale. But now I can see another guest has arrived. Reverend Pilfrey Prattle, American, Southerner. Tell me, Reverend, I've heard a story. Once you visited Savannah, Georgia, and there you fought Satsogwa, the sleeper of Inkai, the great old one, and his wormish minions, his formless spawn and his cultists. And I must know what really happened there. And also, I heard you also dueled Satsogwa with bassoons. You had dueling bassoons? That's an odd weapon of choice, isn't it? Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the story.